Shabbat Shalom. There's a kind of beautiful concert going on between the parsha we read this morning and what we have been doing this morning, because as we celebrate these beautiful milestones in the lives of Claire and of Maim and their families, we read also about basically a process of children growing up and parents learning to let go, and the families of moving from one generation to the next. And what's interesting about this parsha and the beginning of this generation of matriarch and patriarch meeting Jacob and Rachel and Leah is it's the first time that we really see people grow up in the Torah. Abraham and Sarah are already pretty much cooked by the time that we meet them. Isaac we see as a baby and then don't really hear anything else about him. We hear about him, but we don't hear from him for basically the rest of his life. It's Jacob that we actually see grow. And we see him grow in his relations, we see him grow in his family, but we also see him grow in his spirituality. We see him grow in his relationship to God. And it's bookmarked by two actions that he undertakes, one at the beginning of the parsha and one at the end. And the action is the creation of a pillar or a monument, a matzeva in Hebrew, of some kind. So at the beginning of the parsha, Jacob has his dream, and at the end of it, he sets up a pillar and he calls it Beit El, house of God. And this pillar is a testament to Jacob's relationship with God and Jacob's relationship with God alone. And it comes to him somewhat miraculously, and it stands for many things. So when we think about what this moment of Beit El is, first of all, it is created, the rabbis tell us, by a miracle. So the Torah says that Jacob comes, he's asleep, or he's so tired, he's in the middle of the wilderness, and he gathers stones together to make his bed. And he sleeps on these stones, and he has a dream where God appears to him, and the angels, and the ladder, and afterwards, the Torah says, he takes the stone that he slept on, and turns it into this monument to his relationship with God. And the rabbis in the Midrash say, well, wait a minute. There were stones before, and now there's only one. So clearly what must have happened, according to the rabbis, is that all of the stones were fighting over who got to be the one to support this great holy man, Jacob. And in their fighting and jockeying to see who could be Jacob's pillow, God mushed them all together and made one giant stone. Obviously, that's what happened. It's right there in the text. But what that goes to show us then is that Jacob's relationship to God at the beginning is dependent on some kind of miracle. It's dependent on the physical world around him being changed because of something that God did. And so he then responds by saying, okay, God, I'm going to have a relationship with you if, and creates this covenant that is something akin to divine extortion, basically saying, okay, God, if you do good things for me, then I will do the things that you want me to do. I'll worship you as long as I get some protection and some stuff out of it. And all of this tracks in the development of faith in a human. Right? Both that it begins in some kind of if you help me find a parking spot, then I'll believe in you, God, sort of way. But also that the first relationship is between Jacob and God alone. And then that juxtaposes with the pillar that he sets up at the end of the parsha. Because at the end of the parsha, Jacob creates another matzeva. But this matzeva is built also not just by Jacob. I kind of want to do anyone want to guess, but it's okay. There's no quizzes today. It's built by Jacob and by Lavan and by his children and by their families. they all come together to create this matzeva and to gather it. And this matzeva is a testament and it's a witness not to the relationship between Jacob and God, but the relationship between Jacob and Lavan and others. And that pillar is built by them, and it is given not one, but two names. It is given the name of Gilead, the witness of this mound right here. It is also given the name of, I'm going to have to read this one because I don't remember, Yagar Shedehuta. And if that sounds weird to you, that's because it is. It's the first Aramaic that appears in the Torah. It's not the language of Jacob. It's not the language of God. It's not Hebrew. It is the language of who? Lavan and all of his people. Because when we come to build this second pillar, a pillar between human beings, we learn a few things. One is it has to happen together. Another is we have to understand one another. And our commentaries on this dual naming question why God or Jacob would let there be an Aramaic name for this pillar. And the answer that they give is to show honor to Lavan and his people that they are a part of this covenant as well. And it's a covenant of non-aggression, according to some rabbis, and it's a covenant of mutual support, according to others. But these two pillars come to represent the two ways that we have to grow and relate as we step into our spiritual journey. And I'm not going to bore you with the Eric Erickson on this, but we're moving from the direct object trio relationship between a human and God to an open relationship between human, God, and the community. Again, for like the final exam later, we'll talk about the sociology and development of faith. But it tracks. Eric Erickson, by the way, puts it exactly between the ages of 25 and 40, which is roughly probably where our patriarch is in this moment. Because there are two ways that we connect to the world around us. And there's two ways that we connect to our religion. One is us and God. One is us and the people around us. This is a conversation I've been having all week, and I see some people from a class that we had on Thursday where we asked this direct question, and I made people raise their hands. And I said, when you come to Shul and you think about your Judaism, what is more meaningful to you, the relationship between you and God, or the relationship between you and the people around you? Now, I'm not going to make you raise your hands, but I do want you to think about it for a second. When you show up to synagogue, what is it? There's an old joke on this, right? Why does Cohen go to Shul? He goes to talk to God. Why does Goldstein go to Shul? He goes to talk to Cohen. But in that joke is this fundamental dichotomy of our relationship. So who are you right now? Are you a you and God person, or are you a you and the people around you? Because as we grow as spiritual beings, we need both of these pillars, of course. The answer is always both. We need the Beit El. We need this to be a house of God, a place where we come to relate to God and God alone. Because if we can't do that here, where else will we have in our world to find a relationship between ourselves and the divine, and to be able to think about a relationship between ourselves and the divine, or even to think about the fact that we don't believe in a divine, but how does that affect that we live our lives? So we have to be a Beit El, which we frankly are. It's right there on the door. But we are also a Gilead, a place of gathering of humans, a place of gathering for people to come together. And that is going to take some work for all of us to come together to help build these stones. It's also, remind me of this, Josh, later we're doing like a capital campaign. This is good Torah for that. Okay. Not yet. Don't worry. Not yet. But in addition to building it together, it's going to take some understanding of multiple languages, because we all speak different languages, literally and figuratively. We're all here for different reasons. We all come to this in different ways. And to be a true pillar of a relationship between people, we have to allow that we might call it different things. And we might be here for different reasons, but the pillar will unite us all as being one together. That's why the pillar of the community is made of multiple rocks, where the pillar of God is this miraculous monolith. We live in this community, and we all have to bring our stone and place it on the heap to be together. So as we go out and we continue to build this place, we think about what we need in this moment. Do we need the relationship between us and God? Do we need the relationship between ourselves and others? Because it's going to change the way that we observe and the way that we practice, right? There's a fundamental dichotomy in Jewish law, right? There are two different kinds of laws. One of them are bein adam le. Come on, Rabbi, I was looking for you there. No, sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's hard when your predecessor doesn't like the sermon, and then you're like sitting there like, okay, sorry, Rabbi. We'll be done in a moment, I promise. Bein adam lemakom and bein adam le'achavero. There are two sets of laws, those between us and God, those between ourselves and our fellows. Name for me, please, a law that is between us and God. Kashrut, right? Do you care if I eat the ham and cheese? No. Does God care? Presumably. Great. Name a law that is bein adam le'achavero, that is between a person and their fellow. Don't steal, but those are the easier ones to name, right? Don't steal, don't kill, right? Exactly right, because we build into our religion both of these things that we need, a relationship between ourselves and God, and a relationship between other people, and the rabbis approach it in the only way that the rabbis know how, and that is with law. And they govern with law and to remind us that we have both of these things. And it also reminds us that we have to find meaning in both of these things. And so when we come here, we are going to have meaning in coming together as a community. And whether you know Maim or you know Claire or not, there was not a dry eye in the house as these two young women were being blessed and named and honored, because we find meaning in the community. And as we turn to, in a moment with Musaf and a private prayer, we give each other space to find meaning as individuals. We pray together, yes, but we also have moments of private prayer. So we're about to step into one where whatever we believe about God, we take a moment to interact with that belief. We take a moment to discover and plumb the depths of that belief. We take a moment to feed our souls, because we have to do that in order to get to the second pillar where we can feed one another at Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.